So virgin soil, and if you look at soil which has never been planted upon, that is a soil that has many bacteria. And the reason why that is good is because the environment ferments bacteria, and bacteria is also very good to ensure that you have a balanced soil. Different types of bacteria exist. Certain types of bacteria can help you, for example, to uptake nutrients better, to overcome water stress. And the trend nowadays in the industry is essentially to select those and identify, this is where the big challenge lies, to identify those bacteria which are positive for crops, isolate them, reproduce them, and then apply them directly into the soil. This is where the benefit from bacteria comes from. The problem is, though, once you start planting crops on a certain type of soil for many, many years, given the chemical fertilizer that you apply, in many cases you completely destroy the microbiome of the soil, meaning that all that bacteria that used to exist there has died off essentially. So, and this is why there's a big trend nowadays to reapply and reintroduce all this bacteria. The problem is you don't have a very efficient vector where you can put those bacteria into and then apply it on the crops. People do that nowadays through inoculation to the seeds, so seed inoculation. But if you were able to apply it, for example, onto fertilizers and then apply that, given it's much more distributed, that would be more efficient and better. And this is where we see our product having a very big potential, where you can then inoculate those bacteria into our product and apply them to the soil and crops at once. So our product, Hydropotash, is produced from feldspar, a silicate rock, silicate mineral, which is extremely abundant and can be found pretty much in every corner of the planet. Given that, and given the simplicity of our technology, we aim to produce a high value add potassium fertilizer close to the agricultural areas throughout the world and at a scale. For that reason, our customers, we don't see any limitation for customers. Customers can be very large farmers in developed markets, or so let's say farmers of any given size in developed markets, but also we aim to bring our product into markets which currently do not have access to potassium fertilizer. And that comprise mainly Africa, Southeast Asia and other developing markets, which suffer from a very, very low quality soil, meaning that the existing existing nutrients, which one might even want to apply on them, do not work as effectively as in soils which are of higher quality, such as the one in the US, in Europe and other places as well. What we are able to do with this technology are two things. We are able to produce a very high quality fertilizer, potassium fertilizer, but also produce that fertilizer next to the agriculture area. And by doing so, we provide the farmer with a high quality product, but also we manage to eliminate very high logistics costs, which are currently hindering many of the farmers across the world to apply a potassium fertilizer to their crops. Especially when we look at agriculture areas which currently suffer from a low quality soil, and that usually occurs in the tropical areas where soil is much older, where it's a very poor soil in nutrients, just because all the nutrients have been leached away with millions and millions of years of rainfall. Our product has a characteristic which is the cationic exchange capacity, which is essentially you are able to take a very poor soil, of a low quality soil, and by applying our product, you increase the overall quality of the soil over time. So you can imagine our product not only as something that you have to apply every year to be able to keep those crops growing, but also you literally increase the quality of that soil over time. And that allows you to, for example, produce crops in areas which are currently not being produced at all. If you look at developing markets, right, most of the food, if you look at Africa and Southeast Asia, where most of the undernourishment occurs nowadays, to solve that problem, you need to be able to produce food locally, right? It's not viable for you to import, especially now with the massive population growth which will happen is already happening and will happen over the course of the next years, it is not viable for you to rely on imports forever. So to be able to solve the food problem in these locations, you necessarily need to produce food locally. And the only way of doing that is if you either have more land or if you increase the crop yields of the existing land.